What up? How's it going, G Money? It's just
always
us.
a good day when we're talking about Sandman.
That's true. It is. Every day is Sandman Day. We have Aramis in the chat. What's up, Aramis? And
Aramis.
the Robo Strange. Is that a new person? Hey.
Weird name.
Yeah, it's a strange name. Hi, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell. Boom. So this is the twice canceled episode of Delirium Hour. We were going to do this a few weeks, like a month ago or something, and then we couldn't make it. And then we were going to do it last week, and we couldn't make it again. So we're finally here to talk about this book, but now both of us haven't read it for like a month. So you're going to have to bear with us while we, I guess, try to remember what happened. But we do have notes to refresh our memory. So
just tell me this isn't like a fan favorite that we're going to be like just doing a disservice to.
I don't think so. I don't think I've ever met a Sandman fan who claims Fables and Reflections as their number one favorite. But I could be wrong. If anyone in the chat wants to weigh in on that, by all means. And then Robo, that's my favorite Superman Target shirt. I'm going to need you to wear it less. But dude, it doesn't make me look fat, so I have to wear it. It's my favorite quality about it, actually. See?
It looks hella comfy too.
It's nice and baggy right here. It's comfortable, yeah. And like it loose around my arms, but not so loose that I look weak, but not so tight that it looks like I'm trying to compensate for being weak. So it's kind of like the best of all the worlds.
Do you do the same thing that like myself and my partner do, where you put the t-shirt on and you immediately have to like just stretch it out?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's just make it look like I already ate a pot roast. Yep. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what do we got going on here? Fables and
Why are we here?
Fables and Reflections. I've been humorously saying Fables and Erections so much that I'm accidentally saying it when I don't intend to. So
that's
apologies.
The problem with humorously saying things like in your head, especially like naughty nicknames for bosses or teachers. Be careful.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. And I think of everyone as the whatever their name is dog, just because like that's just I've done it for so long that it's part of my personality now. So like you're the G dog, Robo's the robe dog, Aramis is the Aram dog, whatever, that's like that just happens to me. But it's like I work in a place where I have to address my superiors like in a very formal, like specific way. So it's like I have to like kind of be like stop myself from being, oh, what's up, Major Dog?
Major Dog.
What's up, Major Dog?
That's just I have an image of like your superior officer as an actual dog wearing a smart little military uniform.
God, I wish. What a wonderful world that would be. So Fables and Erections by Neil Gaiman, lettered by Todd Klein, colored by Daniel Vazzo, unless otherwise stated. All covers and designs by Dave McKean. Really awesome, by the way. And then edited by Karen Berger. So we're going to get right into it. Before we even get into the summary, what were your impressions of this? I know this is kind of like one of the short story ones. How did you sort of feel about all that?
I in general am not a fan of short stories, or little like story collections, shall we call it? I'm not a binge watcher, but I'm a binge reader, and so like they get lost in the shuffle. And I read this one really fast. Had I but known, I had longer. So yeah, like it's hard for me to differentiate between them. I'm glad that all these were tucked together, though.
Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of the same way. I feel like I have to mentally switch gears so much when it's a bunch of short stories that it's hard for like even if I really like one, then it ends, and then I'm like, oh, but I have to keep reading, and now I'm reading about something completely else, and now I have to get into it again.
I have to get up and walk away, like grab a cup of tea or use the bathroom, or like I have to go do something, and then come back at the very least.
Absolutely, 100%. And it's even harder with I don't like anthologies. I think it's even harder with anthologies because now you're dealing with a different art team and a different writer and like a completely different voice and subject matter, and now it's like chaos.
Right. I think it's probably really good for a certain type of person. I know people who like thrive on short stories.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me it's not my cup of tea.
What copy do you have, by the way? So this is what I read.
Wow.
This one right here. Let me take a little look at yours. Yours looks pretty. What is that? Ooh, is that the? I think that's the newer edition.
This is the last one in the borrowing from my roommate collection.
Ooh,
I'm very
nice.
sad.
And then
Kate,
I
I
got
need you to
this one
keep
right
buying
here.
Sandman.
Yeah, Kate, you're gonna have to step it up because we have brief lives next. But yeah, this is
I
what I
thought
got
of it.
right
She's
here.
not here often, and I think I'm just gonna buy them and put them on her bookshelf. So when she moves out, she has a full collection of Sandman inexplicably.
Nice. I don't think anyone in the world would ever complain about that. So awesome. Good idea. So the first of these, what do we call them? Vignettes? Is that the word that we use here? The first vignette is called "Fear of Falling." It's by Kent Williams, who we've seen on other Sandman titles, and it's colored by Sherilyn Van Valkenburg. So this is a short story. It's the first installment of Fables and Reflections, and it's a short tale about Todd Faber, a playwright, getting set up for the opening of his off-Broadway play. He's decided to leave town and cancel the play. He dreams he's climbing a cliff face, and when he reaches the top, he finds Dream. Todd only sees two solutions: reach the top, or fall. Dream offers him a third option: fly. Todd wakes up and returns to rehearsals. So the way that dreams inspire us, that's what I get out of this, is that,
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah.
And I think dreams aren't real life. Like you're not stuck with the options you're presented in our world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could see that. Definitely. I think this guy's a dick, by the way. Like people are depending on him, you know?
Right.
It's his play.
God damn it, Todd. Todd's
Yeah.
our asshole. Everyone knows that.
Zero good Todds, except Todd Bernardi and maybe a few other Todds that I'm forgetting to mention. But
Yeah,
by
like
and large,
anyone who's been on this show. But other than that.
yeah. Other than that, forget it. Yeah, I liked this story. It was
I liked the art style a lot. I liked and this is something that happens throughout this book that I appreciate, is the dreams are actually dreamlike. A lot of times in movies and TV, like I've never had a dream like the ones they'll show, but like
Mm-hmm.
no, I've had dreams like the ones showed in this series, and especially like Todd's.
I think Inception is the shittiest depiction of dreams.
I've never finished that movie. I always
Yeah.
fall asleep, which feels weirdly appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree though. All throughout Sandman, the dreams are very dreamlike. They're very ethereal, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like Neil Gaiman's trying too hard to be dreamy. It feels like these are sincerely dreams, you know?
I really think okay, first of all, I think we're all crazy if we think Neil Gaiman doesn't keep a dream journal.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that probably, I have to think he has a dream journal, and it was definitely used in the writing of this. This weirdly seems like probably one of the most autobiographical things I've read from any author.
Yes, absolutely. And even this tale about Todd is it's not a huge leap from playwright to writer. A playwright is just a type of writer. So I think maybe he's talking about and I'm speculating, but maybe he's talking about times when he just didn't feel like he could reach those high heights of success, and he thought it might just be easier to walk away, and he had some type of inspiration to just go broke or go home.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So anyway,
that's a good intro.
It's a good little intro. I'm gonna go. I think we've already kind of I don't think there's anything left to explore there. It's just a little kind of what do they call them? An amuse-bouche for the story, an aperitif. Like a little, yeah. So now we get into some of the more meaty stories. 3 Septembers and a January. So in 3 Septembers and a January, readers meet Emperor Norton I. Despair, Desire, and Delirium set a challenge for Dream. A man, Joshua Norton, has lost everything and debates about committing suicide. Despair challenges Dream to keep Norton from her desires and Delirium's realms before death finally comes for him. Accepting the challenge, Dream gives him the dream he is Emperor of the United States. Don't you love how these people just fuck with us?
Right.
Desire is the first to visit Norton and Dream. She realizes Norton's madness is different from the kind that falls under her auspice. Desire states that his madness keeps him sane. Desire sends the King of Pain to offer Norton any woman he could want and says they can make him a real emperor. Norton is content with his life in San Francisco and refuses the offer. Dream and Desire wait for the King of Pain in a carriage. Desire is so angry they failed, they vow to make Dream spill family blood and send the kindly ones after him. I think that might be a kind of a significant, in this otherwise aside, I feel like that might be a more main story centric theme here. And then Emperor Norton suffers what appears to be a heart attack in the rain on January 8th, 1880. Despair and Dream stand over him. Despair states Dream won the challenge and Norton never despaired. And then death takes him. I liked this one. This is a good one.
Right.
But I don't know what it was. I still don't fully understand if there's like a moral to it or like a, well, there must be, but like, are they saying that delusion can be like a good thing, or that it's like, I don't know. What do you think?
My take was kind of like, don't let other people define your dreams. Like, oh, well, you're not a real emperor. I don't know. People call him emperor. Like, at what point is it real? Do you need the headaches that come with an emperor? Could you just be, like loved and respected, which most emperors, frankly, don't get.
Yeah, I think you're spot on.
But
do you think that's a good thing? Like, do you think that's a good message that like your reality can be so your reality is the only one that matters? Do you think?
I think the ability to define your own reality is generally a good thing. I think, since, I don't know, 2016, we've seen that can be a really bad thing.
Right. I've heard like ignorance is bliss, and like not ignorance in a negative way. Like, I'm not saying stupidity is bliss, but like it not knowing things that hurt you can be a self-care or like a helpful thing.
For example, I have a friend. She has 2 children. She did not know she was pregnant with her first child. She did know with the second one. And we've talked. She's like, yeah, the not knowing was way better. That was a much more fun pregnancy because like I just had a couple weird symptoms I couldn't explain, and then I had a baby. And like with the other one, I had 9 months of worry and then a baby.
Wow. What a surprise, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
Her husband told her she looked like maybe she was pregnant, and they got into a huge fight about it. And then she was the most wrongest person ever.
Well, you told me, so I've been drinking a lot of almond milk, and by the way, I bought it from Costco, so I have almond milk for like the next weeks. So I'm gonna have
That's
to keep
me and
drinking
like Cracklin' Oat Bran. Like, I'm not buying Kellogg's, but I do have a lot already.
Right. So you kind of informed me the other day on our Discord that almonds take up an extraordinary amount of water in California, which is a place where we shouldn't even be farming. We should be farming elsewhere, maybe Wisconsin or maybe in the Midwest, but definitely not in California where they're facing this tremendous water shortage. But if you had not told me that, I would have ignorantly continued enjoying almond milk, and I would have probably been a little bit ever so slightly happier. So So it's not necessarily a good thing. The idea that I could create my own reality where almond milk isn't a problem and continue enjoying it. So I guess that's
where's the line?
Where's the line? Like, it brings me back to like kind of like just like what's going on here is like how do we know if someone's delusions or personalized reality is a good thing or a bad thing? And I think in this story it was a good thing.
Yeah.
But I guess just as long as it doesn't impact
you're
others.
Dr. Phil, it's when it interferes with having a normal life. And I think in this case it didn't.
No, in fact, it might have even facilitated something more akin to a normal life.
I mean, I think that if you take that, like you teach people how to treat you. I mean, this guy like dress for the job you want. Like, I feel like he's living the cliche.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I mean, like,
Robo.
I had a friend who wanted people to call him the Emperor of Tomania and like cheer and sing praises to his made up god. And like everybody did it because the dude's really likable. Like,
Robo, you got to try it. It is good, but like, don't try it because it's
um,
bad for the environment. But it is
I
good.
prefer oat milk. And dude, if you can find it, there's this oat milk made from peas. Uh, yeah, it sounds terrible, but they have a turmeric flavored one, and it is like one of the most amazing things I've ever used. It is so good for cooking.
Okay, well,
That is
yeah,
exactly the face that Dakota makes. It's like drink your
I'll
pea milk.
yeah, I'll try it. Um,
The face of someone who will not try it. That's what that was.
look what Fox said. So, Desire swears vengeance on Dream, and the way that they are going to do that is by making him spill family blood. So, I think this is gonna. I don't think the story ends here. It's like the gun on the wall. So
Mhm.
I think we'll have to see where that goes. And then I just like what we talked about it a moment ago, but like I just love how these beings are so fucking powerful and so like above us or even above gods that they can just like basically play like dice with us.
Um, I kind of like it. Because would we not but do the same thing? I don't know. Did you never have an existential crisis playing The Sims?
No, not really. I mean, I didn't really play it that much. It wasn't really my kind of game,
Uh,
but
I was very into The Sims and had to stop playing around the time I started smoking weed because it occurred to me that like I'm playing God with their lives and like this is too much pressure because like what if this is us? Like what if we're a sim in someone else? Yeah, like that's too much.
there was an old game called like Black and White or something. I can't remember exactly what it
Mm.
was called, but it was like you are God and you basically raise your own civilization. And
Yeah, I don't like those.
I thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, I
It's
feel you.
just I remember my mom telling me when I was little that like inside each bubble you blow is an entire universe and its entire life is in the amount of time until it pops. And I'm like, you ruin bubbles. Wow.
What are they called? The fucking the Horton the Who's. Yeah, the Who's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way to give a kid an existential crisis.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Seuss. Um so the next story. And we're kind of
Yeah.
flying along, but I think it's just because it's just the two of us, and yeah, it's just less people talking. So if you want to slow down and like really get deeper into something, or if you feel like I'm moving too fast, let me know.
The note I have on this first one is just that I wish Desire wasn't always portrayed as femme. It's my only note on this one.
Yeah. So it's not always, but it's most of the time. It's the vast majority
And
of the
that's like
time.
that's not even a criticism of Neil Gaiman. That's just society and like at
Right.
large.
I I sincerely believe that if Neil Gaiman wrote this now, that's a consideration he would have made.
I
Um,
think there would be things that are definitely different because there are things throughout this that I'm like, that's at the time this was written, this is super progressive even. But yeah, there's
mhm.
stuff that like what we know now.
Desire should be they them. Um,
Yeah.
always in this
But
in
that
this.
like I don't think I heard about singular they them pronouns as like a obvious I mean Jane Austen did it back 100 years ago. But like as a common usage before oh my god, 2017.
Yeah, I learned about it like maybe a year and a half ago. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely wasn't around in the 80s or the 90s.
Right.
But one thing that he kind of does, it's almost like he creates his own version of that because a lot of times he refers to desire as it,
Yep.
which I appreciate the attempt, but it's also like it refers to objects, so I don't love
Right.
it. I don't
I
know.
think the only defense I can make is that like desire for us isn't it.
Hmm.
Just being a concept, it is an object. So like I think maybe there's a little bit of wiggle room where there wouldn't be if it was like a human.
Yeah, absolutely. But on that note, really, all the endless should be its, right? More or less.
Wait, sorry, what? I was reading Foxy Hungry's thing.
Yeah. On that note, all the endless should be its.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So Thermidor. This is illustrated by Stan Walk and Dick Giordano. And then I kind of, before I even get into the story, I kind of just wrote some facts that I thought were kind of interesting. So during the rule of Maximilian Robespierre, the Christian calendar was replaced. This is all stuff I learned Googling after reading this, this little vignette. But so the Christian calendar was replaced with the secular Jacobin calendar, which forsook, which is another word that I had to kind of look up to kind of like make sure it was the right usage, but it forsook the various theistic names for other names. So Thermidor. Thermidor is a Jacobin month, but the Jacobins temporarily replaced Catholicism with something called the cult of the supreme being. Saint Just and Robespierre, featured in this story, were real people. Robespierre was infamous for his reign of terror when he beheaded over 10,000 people without trial. So, yeah, it's like a super the whole Robespierre thing is super interesting to me because this is like a guy that I should agree with. It's a guy who wants to redistribute wealth. It's a guy who wants to lessen the footprint and influence of religion, but he just fucking beheaded too many people, you know? Just couldn't control himself.
It's like Pringles. Once you pop, you just can't stop.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, he's just one beheading and that's it. Robo made this comment about the last one. We've always used they to refer to people we didn't know the gender of. It's the rejection of the she femme that's new, I think. Good point. So, in Thermidor, Dream hires Lady Johanna Constantine, whom readers last saw in Hobgadling's story. You remember the guy who lives for however long because of another bet. So the year is 1794. The French Revolution is in full swing. Johanna's goal is to liberate the head of Orpheus from the Greek myth and son of Dream of the Endless and Calliope. Remember Calliope? So her and Dream had like a little thingamajig before her horrible experience with that other writer. So she manages to steal Orpheus, who is still alive, even body, but needs to find a way out of Paris. She's captured and imprisoned, but she does not have the head on her. She's interrogated by Citizen Saint Just and Rose, who want the head back. She talks, being threatened with the guillotine. They leave, and Johanna sleeps, visiting Dream in his realm. She asks for his help. So Johanna takes Saint Just and Robespierre to where she has hidden the head of Orpheus. It is among all the other heads from the revolution in some kind of like catacomb thing. She pulls Orpheus's head from its hiding place, and he begins to sing using the other decapitated heads as his chorus. Johanna and Orpheus make their escape while Robespierre and Saint Just stand frozen. The latter two are sent to the guillotine later, and Johanna returns Orpheus to his home on the Isle of Naxos. Really interesting history here. And and then I like kind of how it's starting to tie a lot of these seemingly unrelated stories together, like Calliope. And then, well, we'll get to it later. We kind of revisit Orpheus a little bit later. And that will retroactively shed a little bit more light on this story. But what did you think about this one?
At the time I read it, I did not enjoy it because the book I just finished was a retelling of Orpheus and Calliope. So it's just like, wow, I just did this. But it is the one I don't think I'm worried none of these are going to make it into the show. But that's one I really hope does.
Okay.
Because but I get that it would cost a lot just to do this one story, but like I really want to see this one. I'm ready to be disappointed. It's okay.
Who do you think should play Orpheus's head?
Okay, this is gonna be like, did you watch Dead Like Me?
No.
Oh, there's an actor in that, Callum Blue. He was also in The Tutors, and I think he would make a
Oh,
really good Severed Head.
the guy from the
He was
Tudors, the guy who
he
played
was only in like
the
the
king.
no no no. Oh, he would be good too though. I've never
Yeah.
disliked him in a role, but he was a dude. He was in the first couple seasons when Henry Cavill was in it.
Okay.
And they played Henry's best friends, but I
Ah,
think both leave the show because Henry was not good at maintaining relationships.
I picture like a very beautiful man's face, like a very beautiful head with
Mm.
kind of like that sort of like if like somewhat effeminate princely like demeanor. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
going for someone who could be like extremely distressed
Oh yeah, yeah.
from like the like what singing about doom.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. Definitely like some of
What
that
the hell was
distress.
wrong with the Greeks, by the way?
I don't know. Um, I like seeing other people like like I just kind of feel like this little or not anecdote vignette is kind of like a linchpin of a bunch of other stories.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and reread this one.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna have to reread this whole volume because I
Right.
read it a month ago when I thought we were gonna do this episode. But I do remember liking this one a lot.
Mhm.
And this is a little bit more like plot oriented and less
Okay.
like I mean they're all cerebral, but like Fear
Mhm.
of Falling is very much like an ethereal dream, speaks in the language of dreams, and this one takes
Yep.
place a little bit more in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what was like a very jarring for me.
Yeah, definitely. So you just read about Orpheus. How, without going too far ahead, because there's another Orpheus centric story. How much did or wrong or like?
Okay, so the version I was reading was super far removed from the actual version. It's a book that's told in 3 parts. It's about climate change.
Ah,
Um and the part that is 50 years from now and the part that's 1,000 years from now are like tied up in the story of Orpheus and Eurydice with the there's a woman whose company is trying to like save the world but kind of by taking it over.
interesting.
And then her lover is the one sort of working against her. He doesn't actually know it part of the time.
Interesting. That
it's
sounds
it's a really
sounds
weird
wild.
and amazing book. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm definitely into it.
The book is Appleseed by Matt Bell, if anyone is interested.
Okay. Appleseed by Matt Bell. I'm intrigued for sure.
It's unlike anything I've ever read. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, you heard it here first,
But
folks.
like don't read it unless you're ready for like to get depressed about climate change, I guess.
I don't know if I can be any more depressed about climate change.
It's very much told from the perspective of like it's already too late.
So
and that we will not do anything. There's a brilliant part actually where one of the characters is talking about like there's no such thing as sustainability because as soon as like we can do this green thing, then you just produce more because it's not as harmful anymore. And like, it's true.
true.
Anyway.
Oh man. Yeah, great. I'm miserable now. Just kidding.
Perfect. Let's go.
So the next story, The Hunt. This one I found excruciatingly boring.
Really?
Yeah, but let me remember why as I read this. So the story of The Hunt begins with an old man telling a story of the old country to his granddaughter. His insolent granddaughter, might I add. A young man of the people, werewolves, meets a traveling Romani woman or Roma woman in the forest. She has a bag full of wonders, including a picture of a beautiful young woman. When the young man finds her dead body in the forest, he takes the bag and sets out to find the young woman from the picture. He meets Lucian, Dream's librarian, shortly after. Hey, Lucian. So Lucian would like a book in the young man's possession. The young man says he will give Lucian the book in exchange for the woman in the picture. Lucian refuses the trade. Later, while hunting, the young man loses his quarry to a young female werewolf who takes him to her people. After spending the evening with them, he continues on his way. He meets Baba Yaga, who does not look anything like John Wick, to the young woman in the picture. After a trade of the emerald heart from the Koschei of the Deathless, from Koschei the Deathless. When the young man tries to see the girl, he's thrown in the dungeon, and there eventually enters the Dreaming. To procure the book, Dream does give the young man what he wants, but the young man leaves and returns to the werewolf girl he met earlier. The old man's granddaughter is less than impressed at the folktale, thinking it a silly story. She only pays attention when the old man mentions her grandmother never let him forget she stole his kill from him. This implies the grandfather is the young man from the story. So, yeah, it was just like not bad. It was just like I didn't really know what to take out of it, except for some of the same old like, well, stories are important, I guess. You know?
Yep.
Like, did you get anything else out of that?
It reminded me of the same vaguely misogynistic stories my grandfather told me about meeting their wives. Like,
she does call him on it.
yeah. And like this, I liked when she called him on it, and then I'm like, okay, well, but I sort of thought like, well, maybe it'll get a better end, but like, no, it's still just that like, yeah, vaguely misogynistic, but like, I don't know. I thought the ending was supposed to make you go like, oh shucks, but it didn't sell it for me. Like,
yeah, I just didn't care. Like when they imply that he's the guy, I'm like, huh, okay.
I can see they're out there being a person who probably very much misses their grandfather and like maybe is I don't know, would connect with this in some way, but like,
yeah. The girl annoyed me. It was like, you know, when I remember when my grandfather was still alive, and I really miss my grandfather, by the way, but when he was still alive, whenever he would open his mouth to like tell an old story, like I couldn't be more like a sponge. Like I just get close and like I wanted to absorb everything about it. Like, oh, this person that's older than all fuck is telling me something that I would never hear. You know, like I'm learning about another world, a time before even my parents were born, and I was just so into it. And she just doesn't care, and I just want to reach in and be like, this is an old person telling you a story. You know,
I get both, because yeah, like, oh for sure, like on one side of my family, absolutely, like I would sit and listen to my grandma talk about like her childhood. She grew up in the Dust Bowl during the Depression, talking about like we used our potatoes for hand warmers, and then that was our lunch. And yeah, like tell me more.
Yes.
But the other side of that was my dad's side, my grandpa, who loved to talk. Excuse me, who loved to hear himself talk. And all of his stories were along the theme of like,
I did this great thing. I'm the best.
Yeah, like about how he read a lot of shitty books that are super racist. So like I saved the community from the native or the black guy or the like, oh good, or shit like this about like women, like wow, that's actually super sexist. Not, you don't look good right now.
Right. Yeah.
So like I get her too. But
not all old people are good. Like,
yeah, this old guy is not nearly what I was dealing with, but
right. I do love hearing an old person tell a story, and I know like not all old people are good or interesting, but they've all been somewhere I haven't been. They've been to a world they've been somewhere. Like I think hearing my grandfather tell me about World War II is more interesting than any World War II documentary I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Agreed. I wish I had more elderly folks in my life. Because yeah, like I've never not been fascinated to hear like, just tell me what your life was like. Because even if your life was very average, it was so wildly different from mine.
Just existing during the Dust Bowl, like you said, like just being there,
right?
Is phenomenally interesting.
It's oh shit, that's something like I think when we make fun of boomers as millennials that we forget is like, dude, like especially when we're talking about our grandparents, like there's a lot you should be listening to, because I think we have a lot in common with our grandparents' generation, just with how tough things are going to be. And yeah, I think people who survived on nothing would be very important to learn from right now.
Absolutely. Hi, Ree. Wish you were here.
Oh,
Hey.
I'll
Miss
make
you.
you a wonky heart. I can't do it. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep. Besides that, I liked the little glimpse into, like, I guess, Roma culture. I thought that was cool. It's a culture that I'm very much not exposed to. So I liked that. I liked Lucian popping up. Because I like Lucian.
Right. It took me a sec. I always, every time I see them, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Dream's little cast of, like, buddies. Not really buddies, employees more like. But yeah, I like seeing those. And it's like I think Neil Gaiman's doing a very good job of fleshing out the world in a very subtle way.
Yep.
Just getting us used to characters and concepts without, like, in a linear fashion, just like forcing us to accept it, you know?
Yep. I think, and it should come as not really a surprise having read his books, but like Neil Gaiman's really good at world building.
He really
good
is.
at world building.
He really
Which
is. Yeah.
makes me wonder what his brain is like.
Oh, it's probably like, I don't know. Do you think his brain is like a perfectly cataloged, like, Dewey Decimal library where all the ideas are organized perfectly? Or do you think it's like just a fucking building that's had a tornado blow through it?
I imagine Neil Gaiman's brain is probably pretty similar to the inside of the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah, probably. Like, just like a bunch of dusty books, some rare items like encased in glass.
Right.
Curiosities.
Maybe don't look in the basement.
Shrunken heads. Don't look in the basement. Like, just random.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. This next story is called August, and the thing that jumps out at me right away before I even start, so we had Thermidor and now we have August. So that's two stories named after months. So just kind of an interesting thing. August occurs during the previously mentioned Jacobin month of Thermidor. That's actually something I ended up looking up. So I got that note here. It's July. Thermidor is July 19th to August 17th. So I don't know how much significance that has, but there's a little fact. So the story of August occurs during the rule of, you guessed it, Augustus Caesar. So for one day each year, Augustus Caesar disguises himself. Oh, and by the way, see, Augustus was one of the better ones, one of the better Roman empires. So he goes about with an actor named Lysias. They discuss the nature of Rome and Augustus's relationship with Julius Caesar. Augustus tells of Caesar's dreams for Rome and the empire. He also tells Lysias that he hated Caesar. Augustus suffers from terrible nightmares until one night Dream visits him and offers him a way out of the dilemma Augustus finds himself in. Augustus has plans he does not wish the gods of Rome to know about. Dream counsels him to dress as a beggar and go to the marketplace and make his plans. On this day, his thoughts are hidden from the gods, and he is free to plan the downfall of Rome. Caesar raped Augustus when Augustus was still a boy. That colored his decision of who he appointed as his successor and why he solidified the boundaries of Rome. It is implied he does this to ensure the destruction of the Roman Empire out of his hatred for Caesar. So not a flattering look at Julius Caesar. Just kind of as a side fact, I had read that there were rumors during the time that Julius Caesar preyed on young boys, but there's not consensus among historians as to whether those were factual or just like salacious rumors,
right,
spread by his political enemies or whatnot. So, yeah, who knows? But I guess Neil Gaiman is taking them as the truth for the story. The thing, did you think it was kind of weird that that weird bumpy stuff they put on their skin?
I wanted to try it.
How does that even work? Like, I would never do that.
I assume it's like a oatmeal mask. Not, I mean, ask Sammy. She'll know.
What is it?
Doing an oatmeal mask. If you have like eczema or dry skin, you can use. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if it's. I guess maybe you could use the kind you buy at the grocery store. I've always had it like marketed specifically as like a treatment for dry skin. But yeah, like it reminds me of some of the masks you can get.
And it'll
for
give you like
facials.
it'll give you like boils that look like leprosy.
Maybe.
Huh.
I don't know, man. Have you ever talked to like FX artists? Like some of the ways that they get their like
Desired
the
effect.
no, like some of the means for getting like achieving certain looks are like not what you would think. Like the cereal, the milk in advertisements is glue.
Really?
Yeah, like in the cereal bowls, it's glue, not actual milk. So yeah, like
Interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, the especially back like in ancient times when you didn't have synthetic products to work with, yeah, like the stuff that people would use, like the blue face paint.
You don't
you
even
see in,
want
like Braveheart. That was made
you
with
don't even
pee.
want to know. You don't you don't even want to know what they used for milk back in like old Roman advertisements. Like
uh, but yeah, so like what I don't know, the applicant that doesn't surprise me at all. It just makes me want to try it and be like a leper for a day.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. Um I like
Like I wonder if that's like in Braveheart. Like, is that how they made them look like lepers? Is that like still a means to do that?
maybe. That's definitely gonna be that you're definitely kind of talking about my Google spiral that I'm gonna go on later today. So yeah.
Good. Let me know how that goes.
I'll find out. Um So Dream counsels him to dress as a beggar to go to the marketplace and make his plans outside the purview of the gods. What is this? Is this an analogy for something? Is there anything deeper here? Because I really just don't think I'm smart enough to really see it. I wish Ree was here because she would definitely be helpful.
I want to get my sister on this or something because like yeah, she's a big I like history, but my my area is not Rome. So yeah, like I don't know much about this. I don't know much about the characters. I don't know much about the time period. And it seemed weird the way they placed the like, oh, and by the way, my uncle raped me at the very end. I don't know. I had to go back and reread the last few pages.
Yeah. 1 second.
It felt like such a emotional, I guess like deeply cerebral and emotional story. And yeah, I felt not for the first time, I felt stupid reading a Neil Gaiman story.
Yeah, I just felt like I was missing something important, you know?
Yeah, same.
Yeah. But it was good.
He oftentimes makes me feel like I'm not, yeah, like I don't know enough to understand this story. That's why I don't read his books super often.
So there's like chaos going on in the chat about semen.
There's always chaos about semen. It causes chaos everywhere it goes.
And yeah, I was just seeing Ree's praises, and then I look over, and it's like the Semen Fest 2021 going on over in the chat. So, but there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Yeah, I liked the story. I liked it. I'm not sure why I liked it. I did feel it. I felt like there was something important there. I just don't really know 100% what it was.
Yep.
It might be one of those things I got to read again. But yeah, Neil Gaiman, definitely smarter than me. Definitely too smart for me to fully understand.
Moral of the story, Neil Gaiman is smarter than me.
Sometimes I read shit I don't understand, and my assumption is that it's pretentious, meaningless, or stupid. But with Neil Gaiman, if I don't understand it, my assumption is that I just don't get it. You know what I mean? Yep. He's built that level of trust.
There's a few times that I'm like, I don't know. I think he does misstep every once in a while. But yeah, by and large, usually it's probably me.
So, the next of these short stories, and I'm excited to kind of like talk about the one after this, Orpheus, but we got Soft Places, and this one is another historical, like most of these are historically related, but this one is the one about Marco Polo. So he's lost.
This one.
Yeah, I liked it too. He's lost in the Lop Desert, and a sandstorm has separated him from his caravan an uncle and father, and he's lost in that in-between place where reality and dreaming blur. As he wanders, he meets Rusticello, the man who will later write down Polo's accounts of world travel. Rusticello believes he is dreaming, and that Marco Polo is simply a part of that dream. They encounter a third man who turns out to be our old buddy, Fiddler's Green, from the Doll's House. He shares stories with Rusticello and Marco Polo as ghostly travelers pass by looking for the true world. Abruptly, Polo's companions disappear. Marco next sees Dream, the King of Dreams. This is a dream newly escaped, a dream that had just escaped from Roderick Burgess's prison from the Preludes and Nocturnes. He's weak and disoriented. Marco offers him water, and his politeness saving him. Dream uses what little resources he has left to send Marco back to the real world. Marco's father finds him lying in the stand and brings him back to the caravan. Yeah, I loved this one. It just really hit.
Dude, and I love these, like, hold on, I'm gonna get like these really sketchy illustrations. I just
Let me enlarge you really quick.
Wow.
Yeah. I love that.
I would read a whole book of this. Honestly, I think part of my gripe is that, like, I wanted more of this.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Some story just hit right, and it's still the same theme. It's like it seems like every single one of these is almost like a advertisement for the value of dreaming.
Yep.
You know, it's all a case for how dream deserves to be on the endless. You know, like if me and a bunch of people were just sitting around trying to come up with this pantheon of awesome godlike cosmic abstracts, I don't think a single one of us would have been like, yeah, well, I mean, death, obviously, you know what I mean? Destruction, right. Obviously. But then
I'd be
that's not
lazy and just do the 7 deadly sins.
Right. Like we would think of the powerful, the ones that are obviously and like overtly powerful.
War, lust, yeah.
But dream is such a subtle one, and this book and all of these books really make a case for how not only is it important and powerful, but it's the most important.
If you could be immortal, but you would never sleep again, would you do it?
Do I feel like I want to, like, do I still get tired and wish I could sleep?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just constantly feeling like I just really need to fucking sleep.
Yeah, like you would be tired all the time.
Nah, I wouldn't do it. Not worth it.
Now, if you're not tired of, like, you're full of energy all the time.
I'm full of energy all the time. I just don't need to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a robot.
Yeah, I'd do it.
See, I think that would almost be like worse.
Really?
I don't know why. I enjoy getting sleepy. I don't know. I don't enjoy being tired, but I enjoy the process of like, oh, I'm sleepy.
I like being sleepy when sleep is an easily readily available option. I don't like being sleepy when there's shit I have to do.
Yes.
And it sounds like the first version of your scenario that would be very unpleasant because I would just be sleepy and not be able to fulfill that need. But if I'm not tired, I don't feel like sleeping. So like, if I was never tired and I couldn't sleep, I'd be okay with that. I mean, I'd still have alone time. I'd still be able to rest my thoughts, you know?
See, I could really easily do, like, if I was never hungry, I could really easily not eat ever again.
Plane long flights would be fucking terrible if I couldn't sleep.
Right?
Yeah. Sometimes
like at a certain point, I think you would just get so bored.
Yeah. It would be really unpleasant. It'd be really, it would be kind of boring, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I don't understand meth addicts. Like, why do you need to be awake that much? Like, there's not stuff to do.
Yeah, I think it has to.
I mean, I guess take apart your VCR.
Yeah. But I think Neil Gaiman's answer would be that it would be bad, even if you didn't get tired, because dreams are like a quintessential part of our desire to continue living.
Especially for a writer like N.K. Jemisin, her ideas, she has said straight up, come from dreams she has. The first thing she does when she wakes up is writes down her dreams, and like they've come fully formed. So yeah, like I think especially for a storyteller, the idea of not dreaming anymore is,
The way Neil Gaiman defines dreams is a very broad net because it's not just the things that you fantasize about as you're asleep or the stories your subconscious makes up while you're asleep. It's also your beliefs and like the things you think are real. Like your perception of reality kind of falls in line with dreams for him and for all these stories. You know what I mean? Like this
Yes.
guy in the first story, the guy who's the
Mm.
emperor in the first story. That's he's awake, but that
Yep.
still falls under the purview of dreams, that delusion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like literally, like live your dream. It's a thing you can do awake and
Right.
yeah. And I think that it's also true, like that I think your dreams can follow you, or excuse me, your nightmares can also follow you to when you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
Which seems like, yeah, part of this too is very much that like dreams and nightmares are the same thing.
Right. It comes down to stories, and it's the biggest theme in all of not just Sandman, but everything I've ever read from Neil Gaiman.
Yep.
It's this idea that there's nothing more powerful and influential in the human condition than the power of story, and that story shapes our reality. And
oh, dude, agreed.
And that
it's so true.
Dreams in Sandman are really an analog for the greater concept of the power of story.
Yep.
Yeah, and it is true. You're right. Like even just money is based on a story. You know, we told a story that this piece of paper represents this much value, and that story became our reality, and it manifests in a reality that you can touch.
Right.
You know, it's quantifiable and real to
well,
us.
Even we've told ourselves that a story about credit reports that's something we need, and yeah, like, but no, that's like someone just kind of thought of that. We could think of something else.
and yet it's just as much as we've made it just as real as gravity, you know.
Yep. Which I think was illustrated really well, and I haven't finished it yet, but Squid Game.
Yes. Oh man, you got to finish it. It's so good.
I think we're probably going to watch episode 3 after this.
The stuff that you have ahead of you is going to just blow your mind. I'm very excited. Very excited for you. So, do you have anything else on that story, by the way, before we move on?
No, let's go.
So Orpheus, I've been kind of looking forward to getting into this one because it's just a banger of a story. So the tragedy of Orpheus and Eurydice is the focus of the Song of Orpheus. It begins on Orpheus's wedding day. Dream and Calliope, this is back when they were yes, I'm 12, are still together. They celebrate the marriage along with all of Dream's siblings. So Orpheus is Dream and Calliope's kid. During the wedding feast, the satyr, am I pronouncing that right? Satyr or satyr? Aristeus,
Satyr?
a friend of both Orpheus and Eurydice, drinks too much. He attempts to rape Eurydice. She runs away and is bitten by a poisonous serpent and dies. And then death collects her.
Mm.
Orpheus goes to see his father in the dreaming to ask if Dream will get Eurydice back from the underworld. When Dream refuses, Orpheus leaves, saying he is no longer Dream's son. Orpheus returns to Greece and contemplates suicide, only to be visited by destruction. He counsels Orpheus against suicide and then suggests Orpheus talk to death. Destruction opens a doorway so Orpheus can go speak with her. By the way, this is a really cool part because Orpheus meets with Death in her house, and it's like this totally chill pad, you know?
Right.
It's like this legit, awesome, comfortable house with like modern shit inside. I really like that touch. So he meets her in her house. She warns him against this path, but he's insistent. Death tells him destruction was right. Orpheus could go to the underworld and come back to the land of the living if Death agrees never to take him. But there are rules surrounding that. Orpheus doesn't care about the rules, and Death reluctantly agrees. So I don't know why Death is giving him what he wants here, but
right.
I guess she just is.
I think because it's her family.
It's her family, and she just has a soft spot for family, so she gives him what he wants, even though it's incredibly bad for him.
We've seen so far, I think Death is the nicest of the Endless.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
The most empathetic, I think, towards humans.
Absolutely. Which definitely by design. Death is something we all have in common, and
Yep.
it's one of the most honest things we do is die. So
Right.
yeah,
You can't avoid it. Like no matter who you are,
you can't bullshit death. You die.
it's coming.
It's coming, and it sees you naked. Death sees you naked almost. But yeah, I just really like
Right.
death in this series.
Mm.
So
So yeah, with the
definitely,
exception of adding in the endless, this is pretty much exactly the Greek myth.
yes. Yeah, I haven't read it since I was a little boy, but it definitely reminds me of like
Dude, how cool were Greek myths when you were a kid? Like,
they're the best. I love them. They were
yeah, it's like the X-Men, but like an entire
sex.
country was into it.
They were
Oh
like
yeah.
it was so naughty. It was like sexual. It was violent. It was unforgiving and callous, and like the torture was the worst torture, and like
My
it was
sister and
really
I had
intense.
this idea for a while of like we should try and animate a show that's like a high school, but it's the Greek gods in high school. But like that could never happen because like the teachers would all be fucking the students.
That would be bad.
But Zeus was really horny.
It's true. It's true. He was incredibly horny, and also like indiscriminate, not just about age, but also species.
You know what? If it's hot, it's hot.
If it's hot, it's
I
hot.
respect that.
So Orpheus goes down to the underworld and makes his plea to Hades and Persephone. He plays them a song, and they agree to give Eurydice back, but he must lead her out of the underworld and not look back until he's above ground, back in Thrace. We all know how this goes, by the way, and even knowing
Could you do it?
how it goes, reading it, I was like, please don't look back. Don't look back, please.
Could you do it without looking back?
Yes, if if a god made this deal with me and I was in the underworld and he told me this was the deal, the whole time I'm walking, I'd be like, do not fucking look back,
I think I would
Um,
have to close my eyes. I don't think I
yeah.
could look at all then.
It's so amazing how the ancient Greeks understood human nature. Like
Yep.
it's just incredible.
All
So
mythology is amazing. So, like, I think it's such a reflection upon, the
yes,
people who created those myths.
and it's weird when it's still a reflection,
Right? Right?
like people don't change.
Yeah,
So
that's something I've realized is like those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. It doesn't matter if you learn from it; it's going to repeat anyway.
that's right. We're the same thing. We're the same thing that we were back then. We just have sort of figured some of it out.
Yeah, we're not that creative.
So Orpheus is walking out of hell or Hades. He
Mhm.
begins to he begins to believe Hades did not keep his promise. So he looks back. Dummy. Eurydice was following the whole time, and she disappeared back into the underworld. Hey, Eurydice, maybe like fucking say something the whole time, whatever.
Mhm.
So Orpheus sits in the forest. Calliope arrives to tell him she has left Dream and the Bacchante are coming. She warns him to leave. Orpheus tells her he tried to kill himself and he cannot die. Calliope warns him again to leave, but he refuses. The Bacchante arrive and tear Orpheus apart. All that is left is his head, which they throw into the ocean. Dream finds Orpheus's head on the shore. Dream tells his son he has arranged with the priests of the island to take care of Orpheus. Orpheus begs his father to kill him. Dream answers, "Did you not say you were no longer my son?" and leaves him without looking back. He does arrange care for his son, but he says he will never see him again.
Right.
Dream's not a good
That's
guy.
such. Do not call someone's bluff unless you are ready for the consequences.
That's true. That's true. Dream. It takes Dream thousands of years to learn just the bare basics of being human.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. It's funny and interesting, but like,
Right. I
we
can't
know
be too hard on him. Like I'm still learning.
we learned from previous stories that if Dream kills one of his own flesh and blood, he dies. If an endless kills their own flesh and blood, like that, they die. And that's part of why Desire's plot is to get Dream to kill one of his own flesh and blood. That's sort of
Mhm.
mentioned a couple stories ago. So he
What a
can't kill.
what a fucked up plan.
That is a fucked up plan, but it's also he can't kill Orpheus. He just can't.
Yeah.
Now could he find some way to build Orpheus a body and like hook him up with like a pretty good endless stipend or something? Yeah,
Right.
but yeah,
Meh.
nah.
He pissed me off. The kid pissed me off.
This Calliope and Dream relationship becomes all the more interesting, by the way. Like, doesn't it kind of recontextualize that horrible story where she gets like captured and raped
Right.
and kidnapped? I'm really way too late on this, so I apologize, but big time content warning, rape. Should be at the beginning of this episode. I'm really sorry. It just
Put it
occurred to
on
me.
the description.
I was like, we've been saying the word rape a lot. Maybe there should be some kind of content warning. Sorry, I'm slow. But it does kind of recontextualize their relationship. Like when she called him for help, that was kind of like a very she was swallowing her pride at that point. She was desperate because they did not leave on the best of terms, you know? So I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting how Neil's telling this story with these paint strokes. Like, if the whole story is like this big painting, it's like he's drawing this part here that doesn't really make sense until he draws this part here. You know what I mean? It's like filling in all these little gaps.
It's a lot to keep track of. Like this is my first read through of Sandman, and I can already tell you that it's gonna require another one.
Yeah, I mean that's me. This is my second read through, and I definitely didn't get it the first time, and I'm only slightly starting to get it this second time. But I feel like there's like more here that a third reading would benefit.
Yep, this seems like such a good series to read at different points in your life. I wish I'd read it earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're gonna get like 6 good read throughs, and I'm gonna get like 2, I think, maybe 3. I may have as little as 50 years left.
I was reading it for the story when I was a kid because I just like my brain wasn't. It was different, you know what I mean? I was just like,
oh no, yeah.
I was into the story and the lore and the characters, which still was enough to satisfy me. But there's just so much more here.
Yeah. And there's, I think, a lot of foreshadowing that I know I'm not picking up on.
Yeah,
but I accept
definitely. Definitely. I think one thing was done really well in this, and I think this is my favorite of the vignettes, by the way. But the thing that I think was done especially well is even though you know the story, like even if you haven't read this, you know the story of Eurydice and Orpheus. So even knowing it, you still Neil Gaiman built that anxiety of like recovering, you know, the tragedy of losing Eurydice and the anxiety of going to Hades to get her back. And then again, just the feeling of loss and tragedy of him losing her forever and losing everything else and just being this miserable sad sack.
The art can take a lot of that glory.
Definitely.
Same with, again, this series is some of the best lettering in any comic book series ever.
Yeah, we can thank Todd Klein for that.
Thanks, Todd Klein.
And Brian Talbot and Mark Buckingham sort of tag teamed the art for this vignette, and I agree. I think they did an exceptional job. So that kind of, I mean, do you have anything else on that one? I think it's a cool story. I think it was really well done. And
I think if I had to pick one, like read one story out of this, it might be that one.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. And it also included some pretty solid world building. It explained the Orpheus shit from a few stories ago when his head. It explained some stuff about Calliope back from I want to say it was the Doll's House where we first saw Calliope. It also kind of established some other like lore and history and elements of like Dream's development as a cosmic being. So yeah, definitely an important one, I think.
Yeah.
What's up, FA? How's it going?
Your time. Okay.
Hey. So this kind of brings us to wow, there's two more, by the way. So this brings us to the Parliament of Rooks. This is another sort of a very mythically based one. So the Parliament of Rooks
Mm.
is about stories and Daniel's visit to the dreaming. Remember Lyda? I think it was from the Doll's House, but Lyda has put Daniel down for a nap, and the toddler enters the dreaming. We know that
I
Daniel is.
remember. Oh,
So what?
go.
So Daniel's kind of like a product of Dream and Lyda since he was conceived in the dreaming. So he's special, but anyway, and he's very similar to Orpheus in that sense because he's also an offspring of Dream. So Eve and Matthew find him and take him along on their visit to Cain and Abel and their house of mystery. They begin to tell stories to entertain Daniel and each other, though Matthew says he came there for a secret. Cain tells the story of the Parliament of Rooks. It occurs when all the rooks gather with one of them in the middle of the field. The bird speaks to all the others for an indeterminate period of time, and when it is done, the gathering does one of two things. They can take to the sky as one, leaving the bird on the center behind, or they can all attack the bird at the center and kill it. Eve goes next, telling the story of Adam's three wives. The first was named Lilith, and she saw herself as equal to Adam. She'd been formed out of the same stuff, and at the same time as he was, she was expelled from the garden and went off on her own. The second wife was made while Adam watched, and she was created out of nothingness. Adam saw each step of the process and was disgusted by her, and when he didn't accept her, Eve says God either destroyed the second wife or allowed her to leave the garden. So finally, there's the third. God put Adam to sleep and took a rib and created Eve, and Adam woke up and took her for his wife. Ate from the tree of good and evil and were expelled from the garden. Why does God do all this shit, by the way? Lilith begat Lilith, and no one knows what truly happened to the second wife, and Eve grew up and retreated to a cave. So Abel takes up the final story. He tells of how he and Cain came to be in the dreaming. Death and Dream were walking and came upon Cain and Abel fighting. Death tried to take Abel, but Dream offered him a spot on the dreaming. He calls it the garden, and a job telling secret stories. Abel accepted the offer, but grows lonely and talks to Dream. Dream tells him there is a surprise waiting for him at home. Abel returns to his house. He finds a house next to his, and it was Cain, and they got to live together forever. So Cain's disgusted by the sweetness of this story, and he throws everyone out. Eve, Matthew, and Daniel leave, and Abel opens a window and tells the three the rook in the field is a storyteller. It finds out the other rooks like the story after it's finished. Cain kills him for telling the secret, of course, and then Daniel returns to Lyda clutching one of Matthew's feathers. So,
Okay, if I said that there was a different one that was my favorite, I lied because it was this one.
This was your favorite, okay? So
Yeah.
tell me.
I actually read this one twice because I wanted to make sure I was getting it all. I really like that Abel's story is like switches to like Scotty Young illustration.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by these two characters. I don't know why. I think because you love Abel so much and you hate Cain so much, and I don't understand why he's so mean. I'm just endlessly fascinated by these two.
So they're the first murder. The first murder was Cain murdering Abel. But do you think that in Neil Gaiman's portrayal, it's not just the first murder, it's also the first difference. It's like the quintessential epitome of a difference in personality.
Right.
Like, almost.
And just, yeah, like, it makes me angry. It makes me sad. It's kind of, why it's art. It gives me feelings.
There it is. There it is.
I have very strong feelings. I think it also plays into, I think I see myself as Abel and my older sibling in the Cain role. Like, I think I could probably take this to my therapist and be like, we should talk about this and the feelings it gives me.
Valid.
And just that the ending like shocked me, genuinely, like really shocked me. I think his violence always shocks me because it's like, why are you so mean to someone who's such a teddy bear? I don't get it.
What role do you think Daniel has in all of this?
Which one is Daniel?
Daniel is
the baby?
Yeah, the baby, Lyda's son, Lyda and Dream's son.
I think he's an excuse for an audience. At least that's how I took it.
Okay, fair. Do you
I could be wrong.
think there's a reason why he's being shown these things, or do you think it's just because he's Dream's son? So why the fuck
Oh, is
not?
this foreshadowing?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Oh, okay. No, I really didn't read anything about the baby. Really was like the least important part of the story to me.
Okay. Yeah,
This
fair.
like this was the story for me of just like why did that like
I mean, Biggie, let show us
that
again.
need to control. Oh yeah. Oop.
Yeah.
And he's just going to town on his brother like because and the reason he gives is like you weren't supposed to tell secrets.
Neil Gaiman loves the shock, like, and I don't think he does it egregiously, but he does love just throwing a fucking wrench at your head when you think something's going to be
Right.
one way. And I definitely appreciate it. It definitely hits, and I don't roll my eyes at it, even though it's like it's clearly like one of his writing or storytelling techniques.
Yeah.
It always works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't like it.
do you think there was a little bit of feminism on display with the telling of the story of Lilith?
Oh yeah. I don't think you can
Yeah.
tell the Lilith story without it being feminist.
Didn't there used to be a feminist festival called the Lilith Fair? Does that
Lilith
still
Fair,
happen?
yeah. I think that still is a thing. I mean, I don't know with COVID, but yeah, as far as I'm aware, that is still a thing.
I heard about the Lilith Fair before I learned what Lilith was, so it was like, oh, that's why they call it that.
I think I learned about them at the same time from the same people.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, and I like how Neil Gaiman is treating Jewish and Christian mythology as mythology in the same way that he treats ancient Greek mythology. I kind of like that.
As it should be treated.
Right. Yes. And I appreciate that because I think that
right.
we so often examine ancient Greek mythology for what it says about humanity in a
right
in like an allegorical sense, and we don't do that for the Torah or the Bible.
If I could make one change to the world, I wish we could kind of equate all mythology equally. And like if that's what you want to believe, if you want to worship Norse gods, still fine. If that's what makes sense to you, but it's mythology. If you want to worship Jesus, that's fine, but it's mythology.
Right. It's fun to see the kind of old Hebrew stories examined in this way as like, well, this is the story, but what does it say about the people who first told it?
Right.
Yeah.
And like why was this story necessary?
Right. What was the point of it?
If there's a story that was told a long time ago that's made it this far, there's something we should probably be getting from it.
I think that the idea that you become responsible for your actions once you understand the difference between good and evil is actually a very interesting and valid message.
Agreed.
There's a difference between someone who has no fucking clue what's wrong, doing something bad that they could,
like to the point that's part of the law. Like if you don't to be convicted of a crime, you need like evidence that you did, and the mens rea. You need you wanted to do a crime. Otherwise, that the best you're going to get is a negligent charge.
Like if a baby throws a block of chocolate on the floor and a dog eats it and dies, it's such a wildly different thing than an adult deliberately feeding a dog a piece of chocolate,
Yeah.
And I think that's what that story details. I mean, it's something that's obvious to most people, but I think it's kind of interesting that there's a whole story about that and how misconstrued that story is, because the way that people interpret it often is that it means you should do what God says. It doesn't there's no focus on what knowledge and means in this context.
Right.
The takeaway is God.
I wish that again with like Christian mythology, like I really wish that people who are interested in that would focus less on finding parts to excuse the notions you already believe and more on like, let's debate, let's Bible study, like actually like
Right.
read a chapter and talk about what we think that means and what it can mean for our lives now.
Like, treat it like it was written by an author, and what do you think the author meant when he told this story? You know?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, I think it is really important to keep in mind that this was written by men, just men. And not even the ones that told it the first time.
Right. Right. It was written by a council of Nicaean men.
Right. God, there's a lecture series I listened to where a dude put it so well. He was saying like think about how every member of your family would describe Christmas dinner at grandma's. And like each one of you is going to describe that differently, even though it's the exact same event. And like that's oral tradition. What one person remembers from the story is going to be super different than what another person remembers. And then, yeah, you have a group of dudes being like, anyway, this is a whole different show.
Right. Yeah, I know. You're right, Robo. Like it does say that, but that's just it doesn't the takeaway. And I'm just basing this on what I've heard from most people who accept this as a religious scripture have said, is that the takeaway is the God's order part, and that the knowledge of good and evil making you culpable and responsible for your actions and destroying your Garden of Eden or your blissful ignorance. I feel like that's a minimized takeaway compared to how people just hammer on the whole listen to God.
Who did that way better? Tolkien.
Yes.
Because that's like Saruman and Gandalf are two characters with great knowledge. They use it for very different ends. And like that's like I think the downfall of Saruman is that like his the type of Maya he was knowledge. And like that is ultimately kind of what fucked him. Because like, yeah, he couldn't get the responsibility part. A wizard should know better. Yeah. Anything religion can do, Tolkien did better.
That's very valid. So
that's probably why C.S. Lewis got so mad at him.
C.S. Lewis was just a Christian apologist, though, right?
No, he was a Christian philosopher.
Okay, fair.
I think that I've seen criticism. I've never seen a criticism of C.S. Lewis that wasn't true of anyone else at that same time period. But like, he was sort of misogynistic. But like, so was they like. All... And I don't even know if I believe those claims because it's like, oh, he thought one of the big ones like Philip Pullman had was like Susan can't come back to Narnia because now she's interested in boys and makeup. And like, no, it's because she got older. She happens to be interested in boys and makeup because that's what a 60-year-old man writing in 1930 thought a girl was interested when they got older.
Based on like one of the 3 girls they ever talked to.
Right, yeah. Like, I'm sorry if British men in the 1920s were not great at understanding women, but I don't think it was specific to authors. Right.
So we got this last one where we finally made it through this huge volume, and we're at the last one. It's Ramadan. So looks like just looking at the title, looks like it's in line with the themes of the rest of this this volume. So Ramadan is a gorgeous confection of a tale. By the way, it's drawn by P. Craig Russell, colored by Digital Chameleon. It is a gorgeous confection of a tale. It is about a bargain the Caliph made with Dream to ensure the glory of Baghdad stays forever perfect. Harun al-Rashid is the ruler of ancient Baghdad, a city at its peak. Knowing it can only lessen as time passes, Harun summons Dream to him and offers him the city as it is. He wants Dream to take the city into dreams so it will never fade. Dream agrees. By the way, this guy, Harun, is a fucking like monstrous person, I think, in some ways. But anyway, Harun next wakes up in a marketplace that is significantly less than the Baghdad readers saw. He notices Dream standing with a massive jar in his hands. The jar contains a city, The story ends in war-ravaged modern-day Baghdad. A young child listens to this tale as told by an older man and offers payment of money and cigarettes. The Baghdad of legend lives on in the dreams. So I think Neil Gaiman wrote this during the Gulf War.
Oh,
Maybe, I don't know. Baghdad was war-torn at that time, so I would imagine it was during the Gulf War. Anyway,
I'm pretty sure since I've been alive, Baghdad has been war torn.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the Gulf War from my lifetime, back in, like the 90s. Well,
Okay,
but,
sure.
yeah,
That war torn.
that iteration of war torn. But
God.
I like this story. It's a short, nice little story. I like how. I guess this seems very Neil Gaiman-ish, obviously, but it's like the idea that this Baghdad that may have never really existed, this ideal, beautiful, magical, wondrous Baghdad that may never have really existed. They don't make it very clear. Is giving people hope in the modern day Baghdad that's just war torn hellscape. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. I only read like 50% of the words because the lettering was really difficult for me to read a lot of the time. When it had that really fancy script let me find it. Yeah, like this was very difficult.
Let me see.
So I skipped I looked at the pictures more with this one.
Oh yeah. Which part did you say was difficult?
Just that really curly script that they do like the narration in.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I ended up reading more of like the actual speaking,
Mm.
and looking at the pretty pictures, which like holy shit.
Yeah, I would say this is the most beautiful of the stories in this book.
It made me desperately want to go read something by Salman Rushdie.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
it honestly kind of felt like I feel like maybe he read like Haroun and the Sea of Stories and was like, I want to try that. I could do something like that.
The Caliph's like palace in Baghdad just feels like a male power fantasy from really any time in history, you know?
Right. And I think definitely that character is way more concerned with his image and image in general than with actual people.
Yeah.
Which is where dreaming gets bad, when you lose sight of reality.
Well, what's interesting is that it can be morphed into something good anyway. Like, you know, you have this guy, not a great guy. He's an autocrat. He has a harem of women. He has a dungeon full of like people rotting, basically. And he has these incredibly self-serving fantasies of grandeur, of how wonderful his palace is, of how wonderful he's made this place. And he wants to preserve it solely to preserve himself, basically. And yet, even with all that all the self-service that goes into that fantasy still ends up becoming something that helps others, pretty much anyone who's not him, hundreds of years later, you know?
Right.
It's interesting. It's like maybe that's like the nature of art in a lot of ways. Like artists are self-serving. Artists think there's something in them that's worth putting outside of them. They you know, there's ego that goes into that, and even with all the ego and self-service that goes into that, it still ends up providing value for other people.
Right. Well, yeah, like just because my thing is so important, I need to get it out there. But maybe your thing is important,
right?
And does need to be there. Yeah. Just because it's egotistical doesn't mean, same with like, no, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean someone's not watching.
Right.
And yeah, like just because you're an egotist doesn't mean like maybe there's not something to be egotistical about.
True.
But seriously, don't have an overinflated ego. It's terrible. No one will like you.
No one will like you. Yeah.
Right.
And even if people like what you end up doing, they're never going to like you.
Do you think this story was at all maybe like a self-reflection on his career in general?
I think it's all self-reflection, G.
Every single story here.
what you said earlier, I agree with. I think that Sandman is Neil Gaiman on a page.
Oh.
It's very self-aware work, you know. But yeah, definitely. I think that we get a few aspects of him as an artist, and I think this is definitely one of them. The idea that
Mm,
he's you know, he's sort of serving himself, and it's just nice that other people like it too. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
think Neil
I
Gaiman writes
think
for the audience.
um it reminded me a lot of like I'm giving of myself and even taking from, because I have to assume, like his kids have been inspirations. Um, Daily life is an inspiration. So you're taking that and you're putting it on a page and then sending it out. And is that good? Is that bad? Like, um, are writers who use their family as inspiration, and then like once the book is out, okay, hey, but actually don't read it because you're definitely not, the Uncle George character or whatever. Um, so
Right.
yeah, so maybe that too. You're preserving this, but is it what maybe people want to be preserved? Do you have any right
Right.
to be sharing this? Yeah.
Is it even real?
Yeah.
Or is it your, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. This is all about. It just feels like it's all about storytelling.
This
As a
book feels like therapy.
Yes, absolutely, it does feel like therapy. So that's all the stories. I kind of just jotted down thoughts and analysis. I didn't
Mm.
put down a whole lot, but just tell me what you think about. Tell me what you think about these, and tell me if there's any that you kind of came up with on your own. So, first one I wrote is just for better or for worse. This book makes a case of dreams have shaped most of the critical moments in history.
Yep.
And then the idea of creating one's own narrative, like 3 Septembers into January, shows how the power of story can be used for good. And then there's also a lot of focus here on how rulers rule. I mean, we have Robespierre, we
Mm.
have the Caliph Al Rashid, we have Augustus Caesar, we have the Emperor, the phony, the not phony, but the Emperor only in his mind Emperor in the
Yeah.
first story. So what is it's impossible to ignore the fact that so much of this is based on just rulership.
Yep. Well, and what is real power?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Like,
Yes.
is the fake emperor? I think I would rather have his reign than Augustus's.
He has almost total power over what he chooses to have power over
Right.
because it's in his mind. Yeah. That's an interesting point. It does ask the question. I don't know if it gives us an answer, or maybe if it does, I'm just not smart enough to understand it. But it
it,
does kind
it
of pose the
reminded me a
question.
lot of kind of, I don't know, life is what you make it. Your dreams are important, don't let them control you.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could get a lot from it. I think whatever you get from this book is going to tell you something about yourself. I think that's true of every one we've read from Sandman so far, is that how you interpret this definitely is going to say something about yourself.
Yes, absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
think the story in this one that you stick on, I think like the fact that the Cain and Abel one for me is like the sticking point. I do like absolutely, that's because of my experiences.
Does your sister watch
Um
this channel?
no, I don't
Okay.
think so. And I mean, even if she did, she knows we have problems. Like this wouldn't be news to her. I try not to say things I wouldn't say to the person's face. And yeah, like I mean, it wouldn't be shocking for her to find out that yeah, like we fight like cats and dogs. You were there. You were in the fights. Like you know how bad you pissed me off.
Right. Yeah. True. It's a lot of stuff, and I'm not trying to get
Mm,
put too much like focus on your IRL, but like seems like you interpret a lot of things to kind of that like a lot of things come back to that like Mystique we were talking about in
yep.
Discord the other day,
Oh,
and
dude,
then
for sure. That's yeah, and that's something that like I actually have talked about with therapists, is that like I'm definitely true of the person who I think um measures themselves against their sibling, but it's a lot in how we were raised. there's a lot of competition for like parents'
Mm.
favor. And a lot of I've always felt that I've always felt like I was living in my older sibling's shadow. She's very outgoing, very gregarious, really charismatic, good at thinking on her feet, and like that's all stuff I wish I was, and I'm not. Um, and I assume there's, I assume maybe it goes the other way. I don't. I would hope there are things she's jealous of me, but yeah, like, and I think that's probably most siblings.
Yeah.
I have like one pair of sibling friends that are super close, and I don't know how they do it.
I'm pretty close to my siblings, but it's really a miracle because I was such a dick to my brother Joseph growing up.
Mm.
And then one day I just stopped being a dick to him and he like instantly forgave me and we became friends.
I think
He
that's
must,
kind of where we are right now. Is like, yeah, like maybe petty competition is not the way to do this because it actually did get to the point like we were at the point of like I don't want to be your sister anymore.
oh,
Um,
wow.
over a dude, and not even
Really?
an impressive one. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
I was really,
We-
really lonely, and I mean, I don't know what her motivations were, but yeah, like, so we've had it out. And that, but like, we can't do that because like we don't have parents, we don't have cousins. So like, I don't know, we have to work it out. We have to love each other because we're all we've got. God damn it,
Damn.
right?
I think it's kind of like just, I think it's interesting and awesome how like there could be a story that like resonates so much with your specific kind of like experiences, you know,
Right,
and from someone who doesn't even know you, you know.
right.
Yeah.
It's almost like our drama is not original in any way.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe Neil Gaiman's a genius, or maybe some combination of both. I don't know.
I think Neil
Robo.
Gaiman definitely is very perceptive when it comes to like reading into human behavior, and I think that's like why his stories have such a follow. Because like you could do the same thing, like American Gods. I think could really like make you think about your life and your choices,
Yes,
especially for the right person. Yeah, and he is a really. There's some authors that are never going to make me stop and reflect, and there's some that always will. And Neil Gaiman always will. Same with like James Baldwin will always make me think about my life.
there's billions of people in this world, and somehow Neil Gaiman understands all of them in some way or
Yep.
shape or form.
I think it's because he understands that we're not that complex while being very complex.
my
We're all basically the same.
my buddies, and we're kind of off the rails, but I don't care. My buddy is a
Eh.
one of my buddies is a defense attorney. He's one of
Mm,
my really close buddies, and we were in the car just a few weeks ago, and he was kind of telling me about like the different kind of clients that he has, and how some of them are liars, and some of them are telling the truth, and some of them are sort of liars, sort of telling the truth. Some of them, like you get you get all these different motivations. Most people like people being self-serving, or people trying to portray the best version of themselves, or he just has like all these. He experiences so many people on
mm,
such a regular basis, and they're always in one of the most telling positions they could be in, whether they're
yep.
innocent or they're guilty. Everyone, they're all at their most vulnerable because he's the person there that they should best interest to tell the truth to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And more so even than a therapist. Like you could lie to your therapist. You don't want to lie to your defense attorney. This is the person who's going
Right.
to stop you from going to jail. And
I
he was
wonder if
telling me,
people are more honest with their attorney or their doctor. I would guess attorney, honestly.
yeah, I would think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
He said this offhanded thing that really resonated with me. He said, "Almost no people are extraordinary. Like you talk to like so
Mm,
many people and get such a personal look at them, and you find out that like they're not all the same, but they're all of like maybe one of like 6 different types of
yep.
people, and it's all like they're just it's so rare that you meet an extraordinary person.
Yep. Like
I
for
thought,
to one more, platitude of oh shit, my platitude is gone. But yeah, like we're all just people. Like
Yep.
that's one of the things like meeting celebrities has taught me is like, oh, you're just a person. Like
Just
just yeah, you're just, Gary or whatever.
right. Yeah.
I think that's something we would do better to remember. I think that we all have more in common than that was my platitude. I think there's more that we have in common than separates us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree, and I think Neil Gaiman exploits that to tell incredibly
Yep.
personal feeling stories to
Well,
the
and we all
masses.
live on this world, and we're gonna have some common experiences.
Yeah, true.
We're being
Fox Beyond
influenced by all the same stuff.
The Rock is like five people glued together.
That's true.
Yeah,
I think there are truly exceptional people. Like I think like Tesla, Tolkien, like those are like my truly those are extraordinary people.
and he
Um,
said that too. He said there are extraordinary people. They're just
mm,
so tremendously rare. You
yep.
know. Yeah.
But yeah, we're all motivated by the same shit. And I think that's a lot of what Sandman is talking about is yeah, like with especially with the endless. When you come down to it, you can draw your motivations back to pretty much those characters.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Cool. So that's pretty much all I got. Sorry, I'm just digesting this. It's a heavy one.
No, I know, same.
Yeah, that's pretty
This
much
was,
all
I
I got
think,
for this.
of the stuff we've read, I think this was the most like self-reflective
Yes, I agree.
for being having a
Definitely.
couple stories that really didn't connect with me at all.
Yeah, I think I liked it more in the analysis than I did when I was actually reading it. Like some of
Like
it
I
was a
would sort of
chore.
like to talk to someone who was, if they were willing to, I would like to hear from someone who was sexually abused by maybe a family member on that Augustus one. Because like I don't have a frame of reference for that, but I can imagine how that would shape your entire life and motivate you to be a certain type of person.
I
Um,
mean, it definitely has an impact.
right? Yeah. So like yeah, there's certain stories in here that like I would like to hear from someone that could connect with them more.
Yeah, I I don't think I would ever get tired of hearing different people's takes on this text because I think it's
Right.
you bring a lot to it. It
Mm.
leaves a lot open for you to bring things to it, and the audience is definitely a collaborator when it comes to this.
Yep.
Cool. Take a look at the chat. Robo was following up with. Oh, he said that that's what they wrote. The story says if the story. If the story isn't that they did something bad, having the creator curse his children, getting that knowledge is bad choice from the authors. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
If that was right, I kind of look at it like, and I'm not looking at it like a religious text. I'm looking at it as like an allegory. Not even an
Mm.
allegory. I'm looking at it as people telling on themselves for how they felt about the world at the time. And in this situation, I kind of see that the creator and the Garden of Eden are really just blissful ignorance. It's all just an analogy for
Yep.
blissful ignorance. And having knowledge, just the act of having knowledge, you are expelled from blissful ignorance. You're no longer
Yep.
allowed to be there because you have the knowledge. So that's kind of how I saw it. The Bible is full of plot holes. 0 out of 10 would not recommend. Today on This Is
Terrible
G's
writer.
Life. And then attorneys are not allowed to perjure themselves either. Guilty people have to lie to their attorneys too. The people who lie to their therapist are the people who lie to themselves anyways. Liars lie. Yeah, that's
Hey,
true. That's true. And
I feel very called out.
my buddy definitely gets lied to all the time. It's true. Even if you, I mean, even having people lie to you under those circumstances, you still learn quite a bit about people.
There's a line from a movie that has stuck with me. You can tell what people are trying to hide by how they try to hide it.
Yes, that's yeah.
Please don't apply that to me.
No, but it's very telling. Not just people's lies can often tell more about them than their truths.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. Cool. Well, this was fun. I think we think we're pretty much done here. Does anyone in the chat have any parting shots or final thoughts about Fables and Reflections? Let us know now, or if you're watching this in the rerun, go ahead and put it in the comments. What do we have next week? It's Brief Lives.
Next week?
Volumes. Not next week. Sorry. Next time we do an
Okay.
episode, which we all have to meet up as a group and decide.
Yeah.
Because we're a little bit off schedule. We also have some upcoming Club Valiant stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Pineapple pizza is delicious. It's not delicious. It waters down the pizza. It makes the pizza like watery.
Oh, I'm pineapple on pizzas.
Oh, jeez.
I gotta come out and fan.
Okay. Well, all right.
I think the sweetness works well with the saltiness, but I don't eat ham, so it's foregone conclusion. So.
That was so stupid. Why did I do that? Okay. So we got
now you're gonna think about it when you're falling asleep.
I am gonna think about it when I'm falling asleep. Yeah, I'm gonna have a dream about pineapple on pizza, and then the next day I'm gonna be a changed man who supports pineapple on pizza. Power of story. You know? Yeah, we got this. Just get a hold of this, or find it on Comixology, or read comics online. Whoa, shit. Disregard that last part. Sorry, I don't know why I said that.
That was an example of what not to do.
That's an example of what not to do. Or go to DC Universe or whatever. Check this out. We're also, and we'll announce the dates probably in the next like 24 hours, but eventually we're going to talk about the Eternal Warrior. Robo and I are chit-chatting with tomorrow. That'll be up on the channel. Check out our last live stream. It was pretty in depth, I would say. I'd say we really got into some things and it was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, be our friend. G, you got any parting words? What's going on with Pride or Die?
We are on hiatus until health of members has improved. We're taking some time.
Cool. Well, just watch
the
space.
But don't worry. We're reading lots of gay stuff in the meantime.
Yes, they're reading extraordinary amounts of gay stuff, and
it's
it
so
will be
gay
back.
Over here. Yeah,
it's so gay. Awesome. Yeah. So, what does Robo say? Friends, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, that is our show. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe, say something to us in the comments, ring the bell. Be sure to check us out on Twitter, on Facebook, which we almost barely use anymore, so you can pretty much just not. Instagram. Check out our Discord. Definitely check out our Discord. It's gotten very lively and very funny. It's a really great place to be. So
after this, actually, right after this, I'm gonna hop over there and put on Ghostbusters 2. If you want to watch that.
You want to watch Ghostbusters 2 with some totally rad human beings?
Because you can.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What a time for my internet to shit out. Anyway, yeah, I get looks like you left. Okay, bye everybody. What a time for my internet to shit out. Anyway, oh wait, look what happened. What a shit show. Okay.
What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? If you want to hear interviews from industry pros, get first looks, and have access to endless comic content, wake up. Please wake up. You're in a coma. Your mother misses you.